Mental illness can be devastating.
Almost 20% of adult Americans have a mental illness, with 4% having a severe mental illness, something that really affects their lives, like work.
But why do some people suffer from these conditions and not others?
Unlike other conditions like heart disease or cancer, mental disorders aren't diagnosed from objective measures from a lab. They're actually diagnosed from a large consensus from professionals based on what symptoms would look like, and this would never happen in any other field of medicine. But psychiatric research hasn't found reliable biological markers to diagnose and treat people.
From what we understand, mental disorders are a combination of environmental and genetic factors. Some diseases like schizophrenia are primarily genetic, whereas others like post-traumatic stress disorders stem from environmental causes. They're more like an injury than a disease.
There are some pretty surprising and scary causes of mental illness. You can catch mental illnesses, as in something like an infection can mess with your brain. So our friend Vanessa from BrainCraft is here to explain how.
First, we need to go back to the Middle Ages, just for a moment. In the late 1400s, a new sexually transmitted disease broke out in Europe when the French army invaded Italy. By day, they fought the First Italian War, and by night, they made peace. A lot. Anyway, we now know the disease as syphilis. It was an epidemic for over 400 years. In the 1800s, a new strain of the bacteria emerged called neurosyphilis. It's an infection of the brain and spinal cord. That was called the disease of the century. It causes psychosis, mood disturbances, and changes in mental stability. German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche spent the final years of his life suffering from neurosyphilis. It's said that he believed his urine contained diamonds, he had hallucinations, and he licked the walls of his room. To put an end to this madness, penicillin was discovered in the mid-1900s, and luckily it turned out to be an effective treatment for syphilis. And in 1894, Sir William Osler noticed some pretty weird behaviour in patients with Sydenham's chorea, a variant of rheumatic fever.
More recently, infections of a different kind have been linked to emotional and behavioral problems. A growing body of research suggests that strep infections, which are bacterial infections that give you sore throats, have been the cause of severe behavioral and emotional problems in children.
It's called PANDAS. Pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorders associated with streptococci. In most cases, kids suddenly develop obsessive compulsive disorder or tic disorders in which they experience twitches.
But why does this happen? Well, when the kids are fighting the infection, they have an unusual autoimmune response. They start producing antibodies that mess with the function of their basal ganglia. That's the area of the brain that helps control your motion and behavior. But the behavior changes aren't here to stay. When you eliminate the inflammation, the immune system stands down and normal brain function can be restored. Yay.
In adults, Lyme disease has been linked to paranoia, thought disorders, delusions, and hallucinations, and there's even an infection hypothesis as a cause of schizophrenia.
So can you catch insanity? That's a more complicated question. Viruses and bacteria can infect your body, causing emotional and behavioral problems and hallucinations.
And it's not really correct or fair to describe someone with a mental illness as insane. It's actually a legal term that's used to determine if someone who's committed a crime can tell the difference between right and wrong.
Although people often use the word insane in their daily lives, but what does it actually mean? Well, come over with us to Vanessa's channel, BrainCraft, where we break down what insane actually is. Let's go!